So, welcome to another POFcast. I'm Rob Lancaster.
I'm Minagano Kape.
And I'm David Vincent.
This is one of the more agricultural, rudimentary podcasts, but quite advanced for where we are out in the middle of nowhere in our two respective locations. So, we're on the road openings initiative, but we'll get into how that's actually unfolded in different ways. Perhaps we can start, as we usually do, with a reflection on peace from the last few days or week.
Yeah. Or maybe I can start. I'm not sure if mine is quite a reflection on peace, but it's on the journey that we took for the last 4 days. So usually when people share about abduction, I question myself. I was like, okay, what if they hide behind the tree? Because I have no proper imagination of the landscape of the situation that these people who are abducted go through. But walking for the past 4 days through the jungle, it made me realize it's actually impossible. It's almost impossible to hide or to run when you find yourself in a situation that you're being attacked or someone is trying to abduct you, because the land is just very wide. There are not many trees to hide. And considering if you've been walking for a very long time, carrying firewood or something, you wouldn't have enough energy to even run or protect yourself. So that sort of stuck with me, and it made me realize that, okay, sometimes we think out of imagination, but the reality is really, really different and difficult. Yeah.
Davido?
The only thing I can think of is on our way here, leaving Bor, driving from, we were almost like a tourist, basically, because we left Bor a bit late at around 4 p.m. And that was the time I think probably the animals were, I don't know, going back to where they would be sleeping. And it was just quite amazing how we came in and we just saw these, I don't know, how do you call them, a flock or whatever, like of the gazelle and the antelopes just crossing the road. It was kind of really demonstrate that peacefulness, and also shows what this country I mean, the potential of this country, basically. And at that moment, I knew even the fear that we were driving that late sort of left me, and I felt that, wow, this is incredible. I felt really very peaceful. And we literally just stopped the vehicle and then we just see them just cross the road. It was quite amazing.
You guys are the lucky ones.
We saw a couple dead once they'd been hunted and were being carved up to be eaten. I think for me was the each night. The tent is just like a mesh on top, and each night finally like lying down on my back and the stars, even through the tent. I think anywhere in the world, once you get beyond the light pollution of places and out, that sense of peace from the stars is pretty incredible. So
Have a bodyguard there too, which is great.
yeah. So this road openings initiative, maybe we can just start. David, perhaps you could give an outline of what the concept was. We'll come on to how it's all unfolded, but what's the rough summary of what this was all about, what it was trying to achieve, and how it was going to happen?
Well, the main concept was just basically for the last 6 years working with these three communities, the Nuer, the Dinka, and the Murle. The concept was that we've been the meetings we've been conducting, really, we've been flying people from different places to, I mean, different venues for dialogue and all that. And then it came down that the youth themselves decided and said, look, I think it's time has come now. We should not be flying peace. We should not be using vehicles to take peace to places where it's supposed to be. And that it's important that we should walk some of the path. We call it road openings, yes, but this clearly is just a path in the middle of nowhere that connects these two communities. And the idea behind it is that we are hoping that as we walk this path with different youth, it means that the community will feel safer, they will build trust, they will be able to interact with each other. And in a way, it can open a lot of opportunities for these communities when they visit each other on the road. And I think for me, the most important part of this road opening or path opening is the ability for the abductees also to be able to see that there is a path that they can follow if they escape or if they find their way out of their captivity. So for me, it was more broader in a sense that will show people that they can coexist, they can visit each other. That was the major concept behind the road opening, really.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add?
And I think over the years, like since the Perry Agreement, it has been something that has constantly come up in the discussions of the youth. They really insisted that they needed to open some of the roads, and this is also not the first attempt. I think several attempts have been done before. Others were successful, others were not so successful. So I think it's exciting to try it yet again.
And you mentioned the fact that there have been previous attempts that weren't so successful. And from the Juba end, I was a little bit sometimes wondering how difficult can this be? And so let's explore a little bit how it's unfolded. And maybe let's start with the Makol Cuei-Manyabol route, and maybe you can give the overview of how that unfolded.
Makol choice. So, wow, it was an interesting journey. So, we walked for 4 days. Our journey started from Bor. We drove to Makol Choi, where we spent a night and started our journey the following day in the afternoon. And I think we walked for 5 hours, 5, 6 hours. And we spent our first night at the Guardian Highway. And usually when somebody say Guardian Highway, they kept saying, we will reach the highway shortly. And I was expecting a mud-armed road, but it was just, I know it's full of grass. And I was thinking, oh, so this is the Guardian Highway. It was quite interesting at that point. And I think the second day we started our journey also quite early, around 6. And we slept somewhere in the bush. I don't even remember the name. And the third day we had to start really, really early at 5. And when we reached the border between the Dinka and the Murle, where now the counterparts from the Murle were already in Cholobo, which is the meeting point where we're supposed to meet them in, I think we encountered a challenge of water because from our team, the water was getting over, and all the ponds that the youth expected to find water in were all dry, and they looked and looked for water. They could not find it. And we tried to communicate with the youth from the Murle side who are already at the meeting point, but we also discovered there's no water on the other side. So I think quickly we had to have a discussion and see where else can we meet, where there is water and people can be able to meet in an environment where people can have sufficient water for everyone. So at that point, we were 16 kilometers apart from each other, but we had to make a difficult decision to walk for 32 kilometers instead of 16 so that we'll meet where there is water. And I think this is where we are right now. We are meeting in a place called 00 in the Anyidi Bibor Highway or the Bor Bibor Highway. So there's enough water and we were able to sit together for the last 2 days and yeah, the discussion happened. Yeah, but it was quite an intense journey.
And so apart from the water things, what were some of the challenges and frustrations along the way?
I think the terrain itself, it's not a walk on a smooth path. It's really difficult. There's a lot of big grass. You have to walk through it for hours, and some days it's not sunny, but other days it was so sunny. So it's a difficult one, and some people are a bit tired. They cannot walk anymore. They want to jump in the truck and move with the truck. Yeah. And yeah, it was also a difficult conversation where we had to say we are walking because we say it. the idea is to open the road by walking, not by driving. So also creating that sort of balance.
Yeah, there was a slightly confusing conversation at times. So some people saying, "Yeah, we need to get on the truck," but then the truck couldn't go any faster, and then or the truck also had like dead antelope on the back that would had their heads already cut off. So you had this smell with this bumpy road in a kind of makeshift oven, essentially, and they thought that would be for us preferable to walking, but I think we felt that walking was
I
the original plan and the preferable way to experience the landscape.
I took my chances and got into the truck for 30 minutes and then I said never again. It was too bumpy and very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you might be able to see these little tufts of grass. That's basically what it's been the whole way. And even for walking, it means I don't know what it's like on your side, David, but it means for walking, you can't walk in a straight line ever. So interesting stuff. Maybe we'll come back to some of this stuff, but let's hear a bit from your side, David. The I don't know what title we should give to your experience over the last 5 days, but give us a sense of how that's unfolded or not unfolded, and where you are exactly as well.
Yeah, so I think there is a whole story that needs to be told on how the whole road opening came almost to be stopped or torpedoed. That is sort of that's another conversation another day. But anyway, after we have um, crossed that hurdle, then it's finally happening. So we started off in a place called Nganapankus. Nganapankus is where the center is, there the humanitarian hub. So that morning, it all happened in a way that it was quite cool, in a way that everybody gathered and everyone was quite ready to sort of roll. Anyway, so we left Nganapankus. We walked for about 2 hours and a half to, they call it Bichibich River. Now I came to understand really these names like Beach Beach actually, where the humanitarian is not actually called Beach Beach anyway. So we came to Beach Beach River, the real river itself, where we were told to wait for a couple of hours for a couple of other people. Because at the time there were some youth that were not they have not joined us, so they told us to wait. So we waited for them until everyone is around 50, and the decision was made that because we the party who are walking were meant to cross the river, so we had agreed we'll cross the river. A couple of guys were put on the truck to follow the river to the part where it will be dry, and then they cross. We had all agreed that we should actually meet at a place. I can't remember the name now, which is about 3 hours walk away. That was because we left around 2. We approximately think that it would be about 5 p.m. That's where we would actually just sleep and then move on. Now, then what happened is that we literally crossed the river and the truck went. We parted ways. Now, as we walk, so we walk for 3 hours. We head off for 3 hours and then we arrive at this place. 30 minutes gone, we can't see the truck. And now I was like, is that how slow the truck is? And all of a sudden, someone just came, one of the youth came along, and he just said, oh, sorry, the truck is stuck. Man, you could see everybody just demoralized. So when we left, we didn't have enough water, we didn't have our sleeping stuff, and nothing at all. Literally just the little water that we were carrying, knowing that the truck would follow us. So at that time, the decision was made. The guys were like, okay, let's sleep here. Then we go back to where the truck is the following morning. And I was like, oh, okay, that's okay. However, then someone else said, but we're not quite sure the safety of the truck. How is it? Is the truck safe? Because the people who are on the truck, there's probably about 6 or 7 of them. And no one actually, I mean, 2 of them had guns. They could be overrun any minute. The moment the news goes around that there is a truck stuck in the middle of nowhere. So by 6 p.m., I told the guys, we have to walk back. Now, the terrain you mentioned earlier, it's crazy. No, those things during the day, yes, it was okay. We can jump over them, walk over them. Man, these guys can glide through those things like nothing. And by 6 p.m., while leaving, man, imagine doing that during the day. It was already difficult. and now doing it at night. And then by 10 p.m. we got completely lost. I fall down so many times, like nothing. Like those guys, they just cruise through. I was like, there's one guy with bare feet, like he had no shoes on, nothing. I don't know how he was walking. I could not see where I was going in, and then all of a sudden we got lost. We ended up in a massive swamp walking, and by this time that we did not have any water. So at first we finished all the water we had. At first everybody was like, Gordon, myself, and until we like, we can't drink this water. And like all of a sudden, my friend, it reached a point where like my mouth was all dry, like there's like nothing. I felt like I was going to collapse the next minute. Man, we decided we gotta drink this water. Anyway, we drank the water. By 11 p.m., we still haven't found the truck. And when I ask these guys will say, "Oh yeah, it's almost there. We are almost there." And it's like we're almost there. We just keep going. We just keep going. And this time, man, I was so exhausted, absolutely exhausted. So and then I told everyone, please stop. Everybody should stop right now. And then they all stopped. But I said, you guys have to tell me the truth. Are we lost? Or you still know we are going where we are going? They were like, "Oh yeah, we are lost." I'm like, "Freaking hell, man! If you are lost, why don't you say this all a long time ago?" Everybody should sit down. We sat down and I said, "We need a strategy. We need a strategy right now. We are lost. We need a strategy." Anyway, Buff taught us how to follow a process, right? So for me, all night I was trusting the process. I told Tut, "Let's trust the process." I guess this process didn't go to where it's supposed to be. We ended up getting lost, and then we sat down. Where we sat, the truck literally was almost about 200 meters away. So Kwang Yang, who is on the truck, could hear our voice, but they were like, "Let's be silent. This may be criminals, you know. Let's be silent. This may be criminal. If we talk and they realize it's the truck, then they will rob us." And we were just next to them, and we passed. We went past them, and it was hell, man. The grass along the river, the grass was so tall, it was quite amazing. The grass was quite tall. So anyway, so we sat down. Two people were sent to look for the truck. They found the footprint, they followed the tire, and then finally we found the truck around midnight now. And by that time we were extremely exhausted. Of course, the good part was we had water, and now this is where we've been stuck for the last I don't know 3 days. The truck got stuck. We tried to dig, we tried to pull, we tried to do everything. Nothing has happened. And then finally, coordination was made. Another truck was sent. Then the same truck came and it got stuck behind us around 800 meters away. And here we are now. And then yesterday, at around 2 p.m., all of a sudden someone decided to start a fire somewhere. God knows. The fire came, and then we were like, gosh, the truck. Then the only thing, these guys were quite amazing as well. They were able to, everyone took the leaves of the trees, and then we were bashing the fire. Have you ever seen people fighting the fire?
Bushfire, not ordinary.
Bushfire, actually. Anyway, they succeeded, and then we came. So we are here now. We are waiting for the third truck, and I honestly don't know when the third truck will arrive, but that's where we are.
So, Amiz, we'll come back to you, Minagano. We thought we'd picked a strategic spot for this, just in the shade of the truck, away from the group, but it seems the activity is a little bit popular. So, in the midst of all of that, because it sounds like in relation to the road openings exercise has been super discouraging. But what's been happening that's been encouraging while you've been there? Like, well, what's been going on that gives you a sense of actually there's good that can come out of this, and the attitude or whatever of the group you're with.
It's quite amazing. The first thing, man, these guys are quite, what's the word? Very, very caring. They make sure, that we have what we need. They make sure that, everything, like they were just very, 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 and very helpful in a sense. And now that we've spent these days together, the communities around keep coming, and they're just bringing milk, giving us milk free. We talking about what is happening. It's really created this bond among us. And we obviously have Tut and Kwang Yang, who are from Nuer. in this coming in this land. It's quite amazing how they were telling stories of what is happening in their end. They were talking about how schools, there were schools. They were talking like there's a lot of sharing that is going on, and we're very lucky too. We've come with a pastor from Gumuru. So I love this part where before our journey there is a prayer, and then when we stop there is a prayer, and then at night he would also pray. So we'll ask different people to pray overnight. It's just quite an amazing atmosphere. What for me is what breaks my heart a lot is seeing the children. They were just behind me. Someone sort of chased them away right now. But those kids, they just sort of really innocent, and their hope of going to school, their hope of having a life as a child, is sort of destroyed in a sense, because we had a bit of a conversation with them. We could see exactly where they would end up. Ended up with guns, ended up having to raid. One of the kids basically now said, "I'm under training right now. I'm being trained how to go and raid or how to go and steal." It just sort of breaks your heart. But I guess among us here, I think the group that we have formed is quite an incredible group that I think, and that's why they say, okay, even though we are not going to proceed, we are going to camp along the river and invite all the community and just talk about peace.
Mm. What do you make of that as you listen to it?
Oh, I think that could make a movie. Yeah, I think you had quite an experience, and yeah, I think the center in a way in Beach Beach had brought communities from the neighboring village to really settle around, and to because from the last time I was in Beach Beach, I saw many people are trying to settle around there, and it gives some sense of hope. It's unfortunate that the road opening on your side could not happen, but also the idea to sit with the community and have discussions along the river, I think it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole process, it becomes relational in one way or another, whether or not we end up on one side or the other achieving the road openings right now. And it just demonstrates or underlines that this process is difficult and why it's what a shortish distances when you look at it in the overall scheme of things, but such remote areas, such variable climate and access to water that can't be pinpointed easily, it seems. So, yeah, it's
Yeah, and I think at the center of it all, it's the commitment that keeps people going, because even in our journey when we reached the border between these two communities, and when we had this no water, some people were even saying, okay, we have walked all these days, and let's consider that these roads are open because we've done that already. But some of the youth said, no, we have come so far. We're not going to go back until we meet the Murle youth. So we had to take the longer route in order to be able to make sure that we meet. And I think it's commitment that made it possible, despite the difficulties that we have encountered throughout the journey.
and this trust too. Maybe you can come in a second to moments that have stuck in your mind. But David, we had this moment where it was a question: do we go on to Chalabol or do we come down to the road to where the water is and then try and meet them down at the road? But on our side, there was concerns that they were going through an area that they thought there might be criminals and that they wouldn't be safe, and so really hesitant to take this route down to the road. You have, on the one hand, all this mistrust between the two communities, but then we got on the phone through the Starlink with the team on the other side, got Gulech on the phone, and all Gulech had to say was, "No, no, no worries. It's and Azen, the other chief. No worries, it's fine. You go." 30 seconds. And then I was like, okay, halas, we go. And off we went for this blistering walk down to the road. So it's like this fine line between trust and mistrust. And when it's on one side, it's like nothing's possible. But when it tips onto the other side, anything is possible.
And it's also, I think it's the personalities and the fact that some of these chiefs know each other from each direction,
Yeah.
and like a word from a chief from the other side just gives that sort of confidence and that, oh, we can do it, because we were confused at some point. The discussion was so difficult in terms of, oh, can we trust these people to go here? And it was just like few words to say, yeah, the chief is here, the chief from this Payam is here, you can go. And then we were like, okay, it's not as hard as we thought it would be.
The walk was still pretty hard.
The work was hard, but that decision, that moment of decision making, yeah, we thought it was going to be a long discussion, a lot of convincing and all that.
For you, what else have been the significant moments or a significant moment?
I think it's the when we reach 0-0, and then now, because we reached 0-0 before the Murle team. In fact, they reached the main road before us. But then in the discussion, the youth agreed that they will not come to 0-0 until we arrive here, because this is a Dinka territory. We need to communicate to them that we are here, and then they will join us. So when we got here about midday, we communicated to the Murle team to tell them we're here now, they can come. So they came. The welcoming, the greeting, how these people interacted with each other was really beautiful. It stuck in my mind. It turns out a lot of them knows each other. And the energy that was also coming from the different teams and the Mutle team, there were some of them jumped out of the truck to walk for 1 more hour, carrying the flags and so excited to meet their counterparts from this side. I think that really stuck on my mind. And a young boy just tied the Dor Ganon and Mal flag all over his body. And I think for the past 2 days he's been walking with that flag. I think it's part of his attire now. So that really stuck on my mind, the meeting of the two groups.
And when we came to the meeting, what had happened in the week beforehand and had affected Chief Kulech, specifically his family, in terms of the abducted children and so forth. But the fact that he'd already taken steps to start collecting the cattle, despite being personally affected. And again, yesterday, just in the tone of what he was saying, was very much like, okay, this shouldn't have happened this way. But I'm going to continue collecting the cattle, and I just really request that these children can be returned. And then also shifting in this narrative from it's either everyone over here is to blame or everyone over here is to blame, to say no, we've made mistakes on our side, and there's mistakes on the other side, but we're committed to peace, so we just keep working, and let's not let these incidents prevent that. So the proof will be in the pudding afterwards. But even the fact of coming to the meeting with such a positive tone, despite last week having this very personal experience of the impact, is kind of striking in a way.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And we got to like hear more details of Gulaid's story. But there's another young man who we learned apparently lost 6 of his children were abducted, and he was initially not part of this mission of the road opening. But when he heard that this initiative is happening, he insisted that he need to be part of this peace process, and he just came with the team. And yeah, he's here. I thought that was also striking and inspiring. Just like Gulik, despite the loss, they're still showing commitment to peace. Yeah, in one way or the other.
So, David, on your side, what lies ahead now, in a nutshell?
Unfortunately, due to the incident that took place in on the road, in Kadiang, so these guys were really like, we should go. We can try to go. But then all of a sudden, because there was a confrontation and a couple of people were injured from the team that were meant to meet, and then also someone was killed, obviously not part of the participants. That sort of changed everything. Basically, it changes quite a lot. And so now they say, okay, we want you guys to promise us that we will attempt again. Now the temperature and the emotions are quite high, So how about we give it a go again? And we said, okay, fine, we can give it a go. And then also they were talking at around May, the rain have started, not quite heavy. There will be enough water and we can do it again. So the message they want to send to their counterparts or the youth the other side is that we will try to attempt this again. And of course, the issue of the middle ground, Manayak, in the middle ground there is a bigger issue that they were saying if this is where the criminal congregate, then we need to get there and we actually climb there when we go next time. So that's what is happening now. So we have resorted to once the truck comes today, and the two vehicles are pulled out, then we'll go back to the river. It will be about 3 hours walk. Somehow we'll go back to the river and then we'll camp there for 2 days. They wanted to call the community. They wanted us to engage with them before we can close the whole road opening thing.
So overall, as you sit there today, probably your hand getting tired from holding up the phone for half an hour. How are you feeling about the whole thing together?
I'm feeling great. There are two things I wanted to say. When I was walking, it reminded me on my journey when I was walking for 3 months to Ethiopia. Those days it was quite emotional at the time. And the second part for me really is, you know, you know, Peace Canal. Yes, we connected to Peace Canal. POF, we support Peace Canal. But I think these guys are really incredible. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. There's this Dinka guy, Gordon. There's these two Nuer guys in the middle of nowhere. They just literally trust. Like there's nowhere. There's no you won't tell me there's another organization in South Sudan who will be able to do this. Now, for me, Rob, I was feeling that we talk about safeguarding. Safeguarding was out of the window by that time. And we were just hoping and trusting that, they just trust these guys. They just trust and the commitment with it. For me, that was so inspiring. Seeing these guys, seeing Tuto plucked out and seeing Gordon Shoe torn and they're still committed. For me, that will sit with me forever. The journey that we are walking with such incredible individuals, that's what actually keeps me, it gives me the energy. I want to keep pushing on. So I just wanted to say these guys is quite amazing. And I'm sure it's the same with your team there. So Peace Canal is just quite amazing. They're amazing individuals.
Yeah, same on our side. All the folks that came, Nyado from the north side came from across with the Mole, and then we had Rose and Aruka, and they all wanted to come. No one was there was no 3-line whip saying everyone had to be on this journey, but they all came. Stephen Bay, Tamuto, and Minagano, of course, from our side. How are you feeling about everything at the end of it?
It's great. I'm glad I was able to be part of this experience because, I think it's one of these experiences that will not happen twice. Maybe it will happen twice, but I'm happy that I was part of it to walk through the jungles of this part of South Sudan, but also to interact with everyone who is part of this journey. And just like you say, trust, commitment, because for me, for even us, Rob, we're just here. We don't know. We're meeting so many people for the first time, but we have completely trusted that these people will take care of us. Like we're just walking in the middle. Sometimes we walk and we spray it across the bushes, but then we're like, we're safe. These people are here. So I think trust is really also at the center of all this. And I think this is also one thing that will take these communities further if they want to achieve peace. As we understand, it's not something that can be built in one day, but with these small steps, their trust on each other continues to grow, and they will continue to build relation between each other, and that possibly is the start of peace. Um, there are two women from the Dinka community that worked with us, and one of them was working with her sandal. And I thought they really very committed, and they have put their heart out on this journey, and they're members of ICGS, and I think it was also good for them to be part of this, and I think it also shows their level of commitment to this process that they have been part of for a couple of years now. Yeah.
And so often the story out of Jonglei and GPAA is like violence, youth killing each other and all the rest of it. And you see all these youth around, and yes, some of them have their guns with them, but the only purpose they've served in the last few days is to kill a couple of antelope for us all to enjoy. So it's all been about coming together and the youth having their own meeting of their counterparts in a sense of peace, which is not normally the case. And so the more we can get this story out as well, that there's not one narrative of violence only in this part of South Sudan. And if anyone wants to read more about this, it's on our blog. Sorry, our little makeshift spot for you, David, is falling apart. And then in due course, there'll also be a more comprehensive film capturing the process which Jonty has been traveling with us to capture. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think we are onto something. Uh, one of the elders here said, not even a government has ever reached to where you've come. And I feel having presence in these areas, as we have always talked about, make a huge difference, I think. So for me, it's how far we can push and and how we can get the resources that are needed to allow us to go to the pockets that could easily create like those pockets where we thought there are hotspots, conflict hotspot, and get into it. And for example, that Manayak people talk about, how can we have a center there, and people live side by side. So I'm very possible. This trip has really given me hope that it's very possible for us to eventually achieve peace, but it needs efforts, coordinated efforts. Otherwise, we can't get nowhere.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I'm looking forward to what initiatives the youth from these two sides will take. And of course, with the chief Gulech and Malak, their commitment to collect the children that were recently abducted and the cattle that were raided. I'm looking forward to see how far they can go with that. But it's also important to emphasize that they need support, especially from their governments, to be able to really make this commitment possible. Because if this thing happen, the return of the abductees and the return of the cattle, I think it will open a different page to the story of these two communities. Yes, maybe other incidences will happen, but I think it will be a good gesture that they're really putting in an effort to achieve peace. And as well as the youth, some of the things that they've been talking about is including, because it's the Makol Choloborot, and how can they now open that as a center for cattle trading. So I'm looking forward to understand the details of their discussion in terms of how that would look like, and some of the people who would really take responsibility to ensure that that road is functional. Yeah, that people are able to move.
Great. Well, we'll keep sharing updates as the whole process unfolds. Thanks for joining us this morning, David. Looks like there's nice weather there, fresh morning. And to be continued, hopefully next time from a more comfortable seat. But it's great being here.